Star Wars spans 25,000 years of history. The weapons look identical from start to finish. Blasters, deflector shields, starfighter combat, even lightsabers. Thousands of years of civilization, and the most feared warriors in the galaxy still fight with a glowing sword. That's not a design choice, that's a trap. And the reasons reveal something uncomfortable about every civilization that has ever existed. So the question is this: how does a galaxy-spanning society exist for tens of thousands of years and barely advance? In this video, we're looking at 4 structural reasons, and the last one is something the galaxy chose deliberately. That changes everything. The most surprising reason involves lightsabers, and it will reframe everything you thought you knew about Jedi philosophy, but we'll get to that. First, we need to understand the foundation. War should accelerate technology, so why did it do the opposite in the Star Wars galaxy? On Earth, sustained conflict between stable powers produced radar, jet engines, the internet, and nuclear energy. The key word is sustained. The US and the USSR maintained generational research programs for decades. Funding, institutions, continuity. In Star Wars, conflict rarely lasts long enough to compound. The Clone Wars? 3 years. The Galactic Civil War? Roughly 5 years of open conflict. Guerrilla raids, supply shortages, no fixed front lines, not long enough to build anything. The First Order's reign, under a decade before collapse. According to the Clone Wars and the expanded universe, even the Old Republic's most stable periods were constantly interrupted by Sith wars, internal corruption, territorial conflict. The Empire had nearly unlimited resources and absolute authority. It could have funded the most ambitious research program in galactic history. Instead, Palpatine built the Death Star twice, a single, politically symbolic weapon designed for control, not discovery. No medical breakthroughs, no new propulsion systems, no agricultural infrastructure for the starving Outer Rim. Authoritarian regimes don't innovate, they weaponize. And when the regime collapses, the institutions collapse with it. Scientists scatter, factories go dark, research programs vanish. Every cycle of instability doesn't just pause progress, it erases it. But even during peaceful periods, why didn't innovation spread? The galaxy is not one civilization. It is thousands of separate cultures, political systems, and economies, loosely connected by trade routes and a bureaucracy that moves at the speed of a Senate committee meeting. The Outer Rim exists almost entirely outside Republic infrastructure. Tatooine has no Senate representation. Watto doesn't accept Republic credits, a detail from the Phantom Menace that says more about galactic inequality than any political speech. Even within the core worlds, distributing a new technology means licensing, approvals, manufacturing rights, and adoption across thousands of independent planets, each with their own standards, guilds, and suspicions. Cultural resistance compounds the problem. Mandalorian clans refused outside technology for centuries. Separatist worlds during the Clone Wars actively blocked Republic standard equipment. The Trade Federation controlled key supply routes and blockaded entire systems to protect commercial dominance, with or without Senate approval. In a galaxy this politically fragmented, innovation doesn't flow. It pools in isolated pockets and stagnates. Technology spreads through networks. The Star Wars galaxy had the infrastructure of a network, but the behavior of 1,000 isolated islands. Progress that couldn't be enforced by a dominant central power simply didn't travel, and no dominant central power lasted long enough to enforce it. At its height, the Galactic Republic spanned hundreds of thousands of star systems, but the Outer Rim alone contained thousands of inhabited worlds with no representation whatsoever. A breakthrough on Coruscant and a subsistence farmer on Jakku lived in effectively different technological centuries. The same galaxy, completely different realities. And this raises the next question, one most people never think to ask. We know what stopped progress from the top down, but what about from the bottom up, from the raw materials themselves? Innovation requires one thing, above all else, the freedom to waste resources on experiments that fail. Kyber crystals, the power source of every lightsaber and the Death Star's super laser, are found on a handful of planets: Ilum, Jedha, a few others. The Empire strip-mined Jedha to secure supply, strip-mined an entire holy world to power a weapon they then lost to a farm boy with no formal combat training. Tabana gas, essential to blaster technology, is harvested from gas giant atmospheres under dangerous conditions. Coaxium, hyperdrive fuel, is so unstable that the entire plot of Solo, a Star Wars story, turns on extracting and refining a shipment of it before it destabilizes. A window of hours, not days. When your core materials are this scarce and this volatile, you don't experiment. You standardize. You use the design that works and you refine it incrementally rather than risk losing irreplaceable resources on a prototype that might fail. The ARC-170 starfighter from the Clone Wars and the T-65 X-Wing from the Rebellion era, separated by nearly 2 decades, share the same fundamental layout. 4 engines, fixed cannons, single pilot. The blueprint barely moved. Earth's industrial revolution was built on abundant coal and iron. Cheap, everywhere, expendable. The Star Wars galaxy runs on scarcity, and scarcity is the enemy of experimentation. You can't iterate when every iteration costs you something you can barely replace. If this kind of breakdown is what you're here for, hit like and subscribe. Earlier, we mentioned that one reason has nothing to do with war, politics, or resources. Here it is. Everything so far explains why the galaxy couldn't move forward, but the last reason explains why the most powerful people in it actively didn't want to. What if some of this stagnation wasn't a failure, but a feature? The lightsaber predates the Galactic Republic itself. Its origins stretch back to the earliest days of the Jedi Order, tens of thousands of years before the Battle of Yavin. The core design: Kyber Crystal, plasma blade, handcrafted hilt, barely changed across that entire span. Across both Legends and canon sources, including the Clone Wars and the High Republic era, constructing a lightsaber is consistently treated as a rite of passage, a meditation, a demonstration of attunement with the Force. The crystal doesn't just power the weapon, it reflects the Jedi who wields it. To redesign the lightsaber would be to break something sacred, and the Jedi are not unique in this. Mandalorian Beskar armor follows centuries-old forging traditions, because the tradition is the identity. Tusken Raiders maintain weapons and tactics passed through generations, because change would mean becoming something other than Tusken Raiders. Even the Galactic Senate preserved its ancient amphitheater architecture long after it stopped being practical, because the building was the symbol. And this pattern runs deeper than architecture or weapons. The Jedi forbade attachment, not just emotionally, but intellectually. Sharing Force knowledge outside the Order was unthinkable. Techniques, philosophies, entire branches of Force understanding locked inside a single institution. When Order 66 came, as depicted in Revenge of the Sith and across multiple episodes of the Clone Wars, it didn't just kill the Jedi. It deleted millennia of accumulated knowledge in a single moment across the galaxy. Tradition, taken to its extreme, becomes fragility. In civilizations this old, tradition becomes infrastructure, not just emotionally, but economically and institutionally. Entire industries exist to support established designs. Training systems are built around existing techniques. The Jedi didn't fail to improve the lightsaber. They decided, consciously, that improvement wasn't the point. Not what you'd expect from the galaxy's most feared warriors. Or is it? What you're actually watching in Star Wars isn't a universe where someone forgot to invent better technology. Here's my read. This makes Star Wars more realistic, not less. Ming China had gunpowder, the compass, and the printing press, centuries before Europe, and actively suppressed all three, because the Confucian bureaucracy valued stability over disruption. The Jedi Order did the same thing, on a galactic scale, for 25,000 years. Real civilizations stagnate not because they lack intelligence, but because the systems built to ensure survival eventually become the systems that prevent change. That's not a story about technology. It's a story about an order so focused on preserving the past that it never saw the future coming. And in the end, neither did we.